Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode live on YouTube here at the Business Temple with your co host, Super Alex.
And
And
Super Ray.
there you go. What's up, Super Ray?
What's up, Super Alex? Everything here is amazing. It is April 1st, April Fool's Day,
Uh
and
huh.
we're here to have a good time. For all of you that don't know, now you know. This is the Business Temple.
That's
Welcome,
what's up.
welcome, welcome. Everybody that just joining us, our friends, our family members, our new people, please feel free to hit that subscribe button, that like button, and show us some love because even today we have a special treat for you. I don't know. I just got into
Absolutely.
the groove. I'm ready to go, brother.
Let's go play him in, hype him up a little
All
bit,
right.
talk about the episode, what people can expect, and all of that. So, the treat that we have for you, and this is no April Fool's joke, is that we're going to be talking about freelancing and thriving in the gig economy. In fact, it's about time to talk about this because I've been a freelancer quite some time myself. I want to know your experience a little bit on that, Ray. But for everyone watching, we want to let you know what does it take to be a freelancer, what it's like being a freelancer, what that lifestyle is like, and of course how you can improve being a freelancer in terms of your mindset, in terms of your pipeline, in terms of what skills and tools you can use. We will share as much as we possibly can. So, shall we get this
Absolutely.
started?
I mean, yeah, let's just get started. Let's get to it. I just want to say that when it comes to freelancing, New York is the place to do
Oof.
it.
Yes.
I I think when it if you want to when it comes to freelancing, there's no more or better opportunities than there is here in New York City. I I have so much experience freelancing, and I'm sure you do as well.
Hell
But
yeah.
I do want to start out with a story, a quick story, not personal story, but how did the term freelancing come about? Because I
That's
saw this
interesting.
recently and read this recently. We we wondered, and I wondered, where did the term freelancer come from? It doesn't even make sense. Well, apparently, the story of freelancing or the coin term of freelancer came from the story of Sir Walter Scott's novel Ivanhoe. It came out
Oh,
in 1820, and it tells the story of the 20th century jousting tournaments and nobility, where Maurice de Bracy, who was a captain of mercenaries called the Companions, said he
okay.
offered King Richard the service of his free lances, the mercenaries who carried lances.
Uh huh.
Therefore, the term was coined when it comes to independent contractors was freelancer. So that was very interesting. I
That was
did not know
definitely
that.
interesting. Why am I not surprised though that freelancing had something to do with being a mercenary or something
Yeah.
like that? But damn, bro, that goes way back, huh?
Yes, it goes way back to 1820. So when you think of freelancers, you think of mercenaries, and it just goes hand in hand, and it plays really well to what freelancers are and what gig economy workers are, because ultimately the people that are profiting and the people that are freelancing, well, we'll get into the pros and cons of everything,
Mhm.
but it just makes sense. You get hired out to the highest bidder or a person that is willing to pay you for your services, and that's it's the most basic simple transaction that
Transaction.
there can be. I
Exactly.
pay you for your services, you provide said services. Well, as King Richard in this story, he now didn't have to go out and train the mercenaries. He didn't have to train them in how to
Mhm.
combating with lances. He could just hire them straight
It's
from
plug and play.
Bracy, and that's it.
Exactly. Exactly.
Mhm.
I wanna give a stark contrast to your definition of freelancing. I had no idea that's where it came from. And I really love that though, because here in the business temple, we always talk a lot about ancient philosophy. And in some way, that piece of information, it's ancient, right? And how do we
Yeah.
marry that to modern times? And so I looked up a definition on freelancing as well. I found one of the best definitions here I found. And we can kind of like compare that to how it was versus how it is now. So,
Yes.
what is a freelancer in modern times? A freelancer is an individual who earns money on a per job or per task basis for short term work as an independent contractor. So a freelancer, to be clear, is not an employee of a firm and may therefore be at liberty to complete different jobs concurrently by various individuals or various King Richards, as
Mhm.
Ray so put it,
Mhm.
or firms unless contractually committed to working exclusively until a particular project is completed. So pretty much you're not offering your lands, or metaphorically speaking, if you are offering your
Mhm.
lands, that is whatever skills that you have offering to your employer.
Yes,
There we
exactly.
go.
It's textbook definition. I think anybody that's listening to us today at some point did hold a freelancing job. I
Oh yeah,
don't think that you can ever make it through this life without holding a freelancing job. And then anyone that's an entrepreneur has also at some point in their lives partaken in the services of using freelancers. And now more so than ever, freelancers play an important role in building an economy anywhere in
absolutely,
the world. And that's the beauty of what
absolutely,
the internet has brought us, what Zoom has brought us, what YouTube has brought us. We can outsource work anywhere in the world. It's an incredible process. It is an incredible way of participating in not just the United States economy, but at a global economy. I mean, take all these tech companies that hire outside consultants and workers, like to say from India, from the Philippines,
yep,
from all over the world, and they do so to one. It has benefits on both ends, where as an employer, you don't necessarily have to provide the upfront training, the upfront costs. You don't pay for the health benefits. I know that's a bit of a slippery slope with when it comes to freelancing. But as a freelancer, you do get to set your own hours. You do get to live life in your terms. You get to work when you want, and you do have that freedom to choose in essence. And we'll go
absolutely.
to explaining the differences between a job, freelancing versus being a salaried employee or having a career. So those are the types of things that I want to get answered for our viewers today, and as well for the entrepreneurs out there, where you can find and hire freelancers, people that you can
Oh
count
yeah, that's
on.
a good one.
I think that's a really good benefit for anyone who's starting up a company. Like, where do you find it? Where do you source people that are actually good and are not going to like take your money? And I
Right.
know you have lots of ideas of that because I know you have experience of this and you've done so in your
Oh
company.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. So before I guess we get into it, I want to share a little bit of a story of my own as well. So I freelance for the longest
Story
time.
time.
Yeah, story time. Freelance for the longest time. When I started out as an entrepreneur, I actually started out first as a freelancer, as a freelance public speaker. And the funny thing is, as I was doing a lot of research on the internet, what freelancing jobs are hot right now, never did I see public speaking there. I guess it's just maybe it's a steep learning curve, or there's so much personal things that you have to accomplish maybe to become a public speaker. But at that time, I learned that there were two ways to get into freelancing or the gig economy, and one is to either burn the boat, quit your job and just literally jump into it, don't look back, and then just go for it. You don't have a plan B or anything like that. You're just sticking to your plan A and committing to that 120%. The second way is to kind of ease in the transition from your current job, assuming you even want to quit that job, and
Mhm.
then get into full-time freelancing. So obviously the second one has a lot more is a lot more risk. There's a lot more risk management to that, and it's ideal for most. However, I did take the first route wherein I did burn that boat. That was 7 years ago. I was sitting in golden handcuffs, nice cushion job, but then there was just something about exactly what Ray mentioned, where you can have your own time. You have your own freedom. Really, that word freedom mattered most to me at the time, because I just want to be able. I was a salary man for a very long time before I started freelancing. Probably combined experience of anywhere between 8 to 10 years. But then there was just something about being able to move in the world on my terms, and I thought freelancing could do that for me. And so,
Absolutely.
up until now, I'm freelancing as a public speaker. and social media is the way I do it. I'll explain a lot more of how I do that later on. But that's a little bit of background about me as a freelancer, a little bit of my experience on that as well. I also hired freelancers when I started my company. We'll talk about that, where we hired them later on. But what about you, Ray? What about some experience you can share as a
I'm
freelancer?
listening to you, and what I hear right now. Well, before we get into like I go say a story of mine, I love that story of yours, and I think now that I'm like piecing everything together, I think
Hmm.
great entrepreneurs have to be freelancers first for a long time,
That's a
because
good one.
being a freelancer teaches you all those essential skills of an entrepreneur: how to
Yep.
manage your time, how to work a schedule, how to build a budget, how to
Be resourceful.
be resourceful. Exactly. And all this is packaged into an entrepreneur. All the same qualities freelancers
I
have,
love that.
an entrepreneur has. And the way that you're describing it just tell is very telling of who you are, and then who you are as an entrepreneur. And that all comes from the building blocks that being a freelancer helped you get to. Because now, as an independent contractor, yes, you're responsible for your well-being. It's not the
Yeah.
company's responsibility. It's your responsibility to make sure that you are getting proper the proper wage, to make sure that you have a good living. Even things like healthcare, you have to source that. You have to source life
Exactly.
insurance. You have to source so many things. And this is why it's unappealing for many people.
Hmm.
The cushion salary job that offers all these perks is often much more attractive than being an independent contractor. And because of these very reasons, here in the United States, for example, if you are a independent contractor, you don't get health care. You
Nope.
just get paid salary. And
Yeah.
sometimes it can be beneficial, sometimes it can't. Think of the most the largest independent contractor in the United States, like Uber.
Hmm.
They hire out their drivers, and their drivers can work whenever they want, which is appealing. But at what cost? Or what percentage do they take? And then even the routes that they take are dictated by the company.
Yep.
All these things are happening. But if you are an independent contractor that doesn't necessarily work for a company, that you're just lending out your services, you have to also understand marketing. You have to market yourself. You got to bring yourself
Exactly. Personal brand.
yeah. And if you do work for a company that hires independent contractors, outside contractors, understand there's going to be a fee associated for not doing those administrative duties. It's really a trade-off. Depending on what you want to do, you have to understand if you're going to be an independent contractor that offers his services, and you have to make sure that you know how to market yourself, and do so in a way that people know what you do, what your services are. And if you want to take an easier route and forget about the administrative stuff, joining a company like Uber, or joining other companies like I would say Fiverr, that already does
Fiverr, yeah,
marketing for TaskRabbit. It has a platform for you to find those people.
Exactly. And what else I want to talk about real quick is that some people live in both worlds. They're salarymen, and they're also freelancers as well. And I have a question it's for us actually. I know, Ray, you're in New York City right now. I'm over here in Los Angeles, moving to New York City soon. Is it necessary for people to live in both worlds if you live in New York City or Los Angeles?
Without a doubt.
Yeah. So
I've never met someone in New York that only does one thing, because it's absolutely impossible. The average salary in New York City to live in the city itself, you need to be making, at least as a single individual, over $130 something thousand
to be comfortable,
to pay the rent, to live comfortably and have food. $130,000. And then that number right there might be unachievable for so many. But the thing is, sometimes the job, and this is why I hate the labor numbers and the job markets, like, oh, jobs increase, is because people tend to have 1 to 2 jobs and 3 jobs and things like that. And then that becomes,
I work 3 jobs.
a hyperinflation of what the job numbers look like. But I mean, yeah, when it comes to New York City and where you're living, it's a difficult city to live. But if you can push through it, if you can muster the pain of having to work 2 jobs, and doing so with an end goal, because of course you can't do this sustainably for a long period of time. You want to find something that you can do sustainably for a long period of time. But yeah, I find it that most New Yorkers here, they don't just do one thing. They have their hands in many different areas because it also makes them interesting, makes you a much more well-rounded person as well.
Absolutely, and just getting as much experience and meeting all those new people as well. I would say in LA, a lot of people get into full time freelancing. It's just that they just have a lot of gigs lined up.
Mm.
I would say people here are more in tune with the gig economy. It's very widely accepted here. You know what I mean? It's just the only stark difference would probably be people just burning the boat, just jumping
Learning the
to the
boat and jumping.
freelancing. Like, hey, I want to be an actor, or I want to be a musician, an artist, or anything like that. So let me get these odd jobs in between. But like what you talked about, just have that end goal, which you got to be an actor, a musician, or an artist. And that's more of it, like here in Los Angeles compared to New York. But then I do get what you're saying, bro. Big, you gotta have 130K salary, get all that, and I'm just ready to move. I'm just ready to kill it over there. But yes, I feel like I'm gonna do a lot of freelancing stuff in New York, especially in Times Square. Like all these people innovating, getting creative with how they make money. I feel like I'm gonna be part of that economy there. It's just awesome.
My question to you, Alex, what's so appealing about being a freelancer or part of the gig economy when the negatives and the drawbacks are, well, you're not going to get healthcare, you're not going to get the same benefits as say a salary employee gets, you're not going to get a cushy office or a place where you can lay your head low. Because the way I see it, in a way, it's like, okay, if you have a job or you have job security, which I don't believe, look at how many people are getting fired. Nobody is
right.
secure in a
True
job.
job security doesn't exist.
Doesn't really exist anymore. And you have, when it comes to freelancing or gig economies, it's that uncertainty that you don't know when your next paycheck is going to come, and that's a lot of the fear. But you are headstrong, and you're saying that this can work. This is what I want to do. And tell me, like,
I wouldn't say headstrong. Maybe stubborn motherfucker fits the description better. I don't know, man. It's not in my wiring to quit. And that uncertainty. I'm a salesman by profession, to be honest, and that's something I'm used to. You know what I mean? When's the next commission? You're only good as your last commission and all that. And so I've just found ways to be absolutely resourceful in making ends meet, wherein it keeps me comfortable. But what really attracts me to the gig economy and freelancing is what I mentioned before, man. It's just the freedom of it. When you were working full time as Your Voice New York, there was just that freedom that you had to, you know what I mean? It's not just physical freedom too, but it's the mental, emotional, and for some people, the spiritual freedom as well. Where I'm the type of guy where, yes, people might consider me as a workaholic, but I'm also a highly creative individual. I like to paint. I like to go outdoors. I like to network with people, and being a salary man before prevented me from doing that. However, I will be honest with you. So it's ironic because I started my own company, right? And the thing about that is you went from salary man to entrepreneur. So a lot of people would think that becoming an entrepreneur, you actually have to work less, or even becoming a freelancer, especially in the beginning, wherein, okay, I'm in control of my own time. I went from employee to CEO overnight because I changed my status on Facebook or something like that, but the thing is, especially when you first get started in entrepreneurship and freelancing, you actually have to work more hours. You really have to put in a lot more work in, like what Ray was mentioning earlier. And I think it's a good time to get into that. It's the marketing, the personal brand, the research, and all the skills that you might want to develop to make yourself more attractive to these King Richards. You know what I mean? And just having your platform as well. Ray mentioned Fiverr. I mentioned Upwork. There's a lot more platforms wherein you can actually put your name out there and begin, if you don't need to do training, if this is a skill that you already know, for example, as public speaking, I could sign up on Upwork or Fiverr right away and start freelancing tomorrow.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? It's that seamless, that quick to actually get started. But let's talk about it. What are some skills, essential skills, tools that we need? So we already talked about marketing, personal brand. Anything you want to expound on about that, Ray?
I think that when it comes to freelance and independent contract work, the barrier to entry is a lot lower than it is to get
Mm,
a full-time job or career. I'm not saying that the people that are freelancing are anywhere less desirable in the job market or in the salary market,
it's just
but
easy to pierce.
it's just easier because
Yeah.
if you have two hands, you have 2 feet, you can go ahead and go on Craigslist and say, hey, I can move boxes, I can help move people. That's a possibility. And this is why I love the opportunities that are offered by freelance work, is that anyone that is capable, that has a inkling of some mentality, some mental strength, or some or healthy enough to carry boxes, can find a job. And that's the beauty of it, and that keeps this economy moving. I think when it comes to the gig economy, it has been growing, but it actually has starting to decrease a little bit as these more of these jobs are getting specialized, and then AI is coming into play. So
Right.
I don't want to get into that whole black hole, but it does feel that if you want to be a better this is my theme throughout the whole series, is like, if you do want to be a better entrepreneur, some of the skills that you learn as being an independent contractor can help you become a better entrepreneur. Learning those skills really, I worked independently, so my jobs included when I was working at in luxury fashion, I was an independent contractor. I was working at Saks, I was working at Bloomingdale's, I was working at Bergdorf Goodman,
What's
I
up?
was working at Henry Bendel's, I was working everywhere, and I was selling fragrances, perfume, whatever you need me to sell, I would sell it. And I would say that it was exactly how you kind of explain it. It was stressful. It was like trying to, and also not knowing exactly what job I was going to get next. But if I was able to market myself, push myself out there, make those
Right.
connections, I was able to drive myself forward. And this is what's important when you're in a gig or a job or independent contractor. Always think of what's next. Don't think of it as a position that you want to be long term, because for me, it's not sustainable. Because imagine if you get to a point where you're 60 years old and all you've been
Mhm.
doing is an independent contractor. You never even started your own company or started
What do you have to
hiring
show
people.
for it?
What is it there to show? You don't have a pension. You don't have anything in sort of like savings for your or 401k. Those are all the things that you need to set up for yourself. And if you haven't done that,
Right.
then you're doing yourself a disservice. So think of it like this: if you're an independent contractor, make sure that this is your short-term strategy to get to a higher place.
I
nine
love that,
nine
man.
months to a year, rethink the strategy, work until you can't feel your bones, because I know I've worked as an independent
Work
contractor.
hard.
Even I helped even this like contracting in apartments to put up sheetrock, to move. I did that. I did all of that to make $20 an hour helping somebody move, just because I needed the money, but I had hands and feet and I could work.
And you were able to get it right away.
Yeah.
Goes to show what you mentioned earlier, Ray, reinforcing that it is easier, that the barrier is not that high.
No.
And that's a good thing, because especially if you're in Los Angeles and New York, you need a side hustle. That if that barrier is high, then your people will just be screwed. You know what I mean? I think there are certain positions or certain jobs as a freelancer where the barrier is high. So Uber, obviously that barrier isn't pretty high, but then let's talk about some of the other ones. Could be maybe voice acting, public speaking, acting in general.
Oh, acting is
that
hard. It's tough.
Yeah, you know what I mean. So there are definitely nuances to that, which barriers are high or not. But overall, if you want to get into freelancing, you absolutely can. You know what I mean? And some of the things I had research as well. What are some of the hot jobs right now for
What are the hot
freelancing?
jobs?
Oh man, some cool stuff came along, but again, no public speaking. I was a little weirded out by that, but obviously we got Uber, we've got editor, content creation. Content creation, this is something I want to talk to you a little bit about actually, but then let me just go through the list anyway. We got graphic design, social media management, project management, coaching. I know a lot of coaching. I did freelance coaching as well before, web designing, web developing, virtual assistant, and freelance writer. Those are things that are hot right now. But going back, content creation, would you say that's a high barrier or a low barrier of entry?
Content creation is a very low barrier given that kids are content creators and they make a killing doing so. They are the future, honestly. And if your demographic consists of 12 and 13 years old and you can't and then you can't reach that audience through traditional marketings because one, it's illegal. The best way of doing so is to promote it through content creators and kids that are on TikTok. Are you going to spend, can you relate to kids by doing a dance on TikTok and sell a product? Not necessarily, but if you hire someone that's already maybe established a presence or it's just up and coming, and then you provide them the product and then have them showcase it, that actually goes a longer way than just, hey, this is my product, buy my product type of sales approach. The future is here. There are multiple ways to market yourself, market your products. And when it comes to, people hire kids to market themselves. I'm not saying, oh my God, I was child labor.
Here we go with the kids again, bro.
Child labor laws exist for a reason. Just make sure they're of legal working age in the state that you are living in. But but just make sure that that if you are hiring, don't hire someone that's not able to pay their taxes yet.
Exactly. Where do we hire them anyway? I know we talked about Upwork, Fiverr. You mentioned Craigslist,
TaskRabbit, Craigslist.
What was it?
TaskRabbit.
I have not heard of that, bro.
So TaskRabbit is also a service. It's honestly one of the better services. If let's say you have a pickup truck, a car, or van, things like that, where you can just hire a mover in 20 seconds that is maybe not established with a big franchise, and then they have their own crew, their equipment, and things like that. And sometimes they have licenses, sometimes they don't. That's the risk you're going to take.
Right.
But TaskRabbit is a great place to hire people that just, hey, I want you to pick something up at this certain time and then deliver it to me at this other time. So that's TaskRabbit in a nutshell.
Yeah, there you go.
There's so many places you can go to.
I want to recommend a few too. That's more on the creative side. I would say ArtStation. If you're an artist, if you like to paint or anything creative like that. Actors Access. If you want to get into acting a little bit, and if your freelance work yields more to corporate employers, LinkedIn definitely. That's actually where I started freelancing on LinkedIn. I've got a pretty solid following on LinkedIn. I was LinkedIn's top Filipinos to follow for inspiration and learning 2019. That's what actually boosted my personal brand. That was my kind of like my big break in
Mr.
freelancing
Filipino.
that time. Hey,
talking to the king of freelancers here.
That was back in 2019. Now I'm just fucking around in the business temple. You know what I mean?
No, bro. We're bringing insight and reality to people that might not understand what the gig economy is or what they're even getting into, or even as an entrepreneur, where to find people to hire. It's such an invaluable thing. I would really tell anybody that is looking to freelance to do, if you were going to be working with a subsidiary, a company that hires you out, to do the research, because there is companies that do like to take advantage of freelancers. They just don't want to pay you what you're worth, and they give you a small fraction of the profit that you're actually producing and then collect all the money themselves. So think of it like back to the story of mercenaries and the freelancers. They're putting their lives on the line. They have their lances and they're fighting, and they're putting their lives on the line for coins on the dollar, while the King Richard reaps all the benefits once they conquered that land. So think about that, and remember that if you are going to be doing this, if you're going to be fighting, you're going to be a mercenary, you're going to be out there in the field, how much do you have to do this? How much fighting you have to go through? How much of
blood you have to shed?
literally, in order for you to get to a place where you can have your own little plot of land, start farming, and then yielding your own, and then reaping your own crops and the benefits from your crops.
Absolutely. And, before we head out, I just want to talk a little bit about some of the essential skills that I've learned, coming across the way, becoming a freelancer. And obviously, Ray and I already talked about marketing personal brand. We keep repeating it because it's such an important thing as a freelancer. And another thing I think that's very paramount as well to have as a skill is the ability to socialize, to network.
Yeah.
Because my thing as a freelancer is I bank on my social capital so much.
Yes.
What if I want to get a commission from a sale from this person, from that person, I gotta know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody
who
has this thing. You know what I mean? And that's the way I really make most of my money. It's just sales coming, just knowing people. I know this person, who I can connect to this person. So in between, there's the lovely commission. You know what I mean? It's just a pipeline. Nurture that pipeline. You got to know somebody who knows somebody. And I have that social capital.
And Alex, I feel that it's repeated over and over again, but I don't think people actually understand it to the level that perhaps you and I understand it in terms of, you said something very important there, was that nurturing that relationship, not just making a network and connecting with someone, getting a business card or writing their number down or connecting with them in LinkedIn.
That means nothing.
Actually, it means nothing. Take them out, go grab a drink, go get dinner, go hang out in the park, do something that, and I promise you, and trust me. And then Alex, you showed me this actually, that people aren't really as busy as you think they are. They can spare 5 minutes to have a chat. They can take the time to listen to you, to listen to a proposition, make a meaningful connection. Because I personally, even though I'm pretty social, I live in New York, I'm very much a social butterfly in the sense where if you see me outside, and I'll make friends, I'll hug you, whatever, I'll link up with you. But I'm terrible at, I would say, the follow-up, where you are amazing at this, where you have no fear. You would go on LinkedIn, you would message people, you would say, here's the thing, here's that. It's kind of like you have the whole thing down to a science. And then also it comes out in a way that is not like salesy or pushy. You genuinely want to make a connection before you actually make a transaction. And I think you are amazing at doing that. Super.
Appreciate it, brother. Appreciate it. Super Ray. All the love right there. Thank you, man. And I think there's no secret behind it, in case anybody's wondering. You just gotta, it's really about being sincere and really being interested in the other person. Don't fucking shove whatever product or whatever service you got down their throats like it's a religion or your cock or something like that. You know what I mean? But the thing is, you gotta be sincere about being interested with the person you're trying to network with. Like what Ray said, it's not where you press a button on a follow button on Instagram or a connect button on LinkedIn or an add friend button on Facebook, or even exchanging business card. What does that mean anymore? I don't think it means anything, to be fucking honest. Like what Ray said, you gotta go that extra mile.
Okay, when's the last time you saw a business card, Alex?
I don't even have one, dude.
I don't have
it's not about that. You know what I mean? And shout out to AB, my boy AB. I haven't heard of him in a little while. He is the networking king. Oh my God. Like, Super Ray introduced me to AB. The next time you see him, tell him he has to watch this episode.
We'll bring him in.
Shout out to AB, my guy, that I get networking tips from that guy. And it's just the way he does his thing, which I want to learn more. And maybe we could, drop a segment specifically on that here at the Business Temple. But yeah, shout out to my boy AB. And wow, what an episode. We covered as much as we could, dude.
Just to add on to this, and AB, him and I, we've been friends for a long time. And I have to tell you this, something about this guy is that the reason why he makes genuine connection, that he makes really good networks, is because he remembers people's names. He remembers people. He remembers their likes, their dislikes. Every conversation you have with him, he'll ask you, how's your family doing? How's your kids doing? How
are you?
How are you? Like, how's your life and things like that? He's genuinely interested in other people's lives, and he actually listens to you. He pays attention to you, and he also remembers you. Where I have the worst
Same
case
here.
of I don't know people's name. I could meet you
Oh
10,
man.
11 times. I could hang out with you so many times, and I just don't know. I can't remember your name. And it's not like I don't care. Don't get me wrong. It really isn't. It's because I in the moment and when you're having conversation, especially if you're meeting so many people, and so it's in the network scenario, it's hard for me to just kind of remember their names. So I develop a system that has helped me,
Okay.
and I haven't told anybody what I do live, but if you ever see me speaking to you and I repeat your name, is because I'm trying to remember your name, one. And then
Gotcha.
I don't do this in front of people, but pull out my phone and I write your name in my notebook, and then I
Mhm.
write a fact about you or an appearance, something that I remember of your appearance. So that way, I next time when I see you, I
You
can
remember?
I pull out my phone. I literally pull out my phone and I look you up. I'm like, yes, that's okay. Now I remember the name. So that way, it helps me, and it might help other people if you are frequently in social circles that you may not have trouble remember people's names. Do that simple
I
trick.
love that.
Repeat the names while you're having conversation. Take out your phone, write down a trait or fact about them so that you can recall that later on when you're having a conversation, and write down their name. And I
I
like
love
first and
that.
last names too. I love
Cool.
first and last names.
Damn, man.
Yeah.
There you go. Extra golden nugget
Yes.
for all of y'all today here at the Business Temple. But the one thing that I want to, I guess my message for the gig economy and for people trying to get into the gig economy. First of all, I want to say I love you all. The gig economy is absolutely amazing. You've shaped my life in such a way where I would not be happy with who I am now if I was not in the gig economy, if I was not an entrepreneur. And for those who want to get into the gig economy, once you get a taste of that freedom, it's not going to be the same anymore. It's the freedom that counts, and it's the freedom that you will ultimately fight for as well. When you become a freelancer, there's a lot of uncertainty, and so you need to know your why. My why back then was I just want to be, I'm a free spirit. I want to do what I want to do in my terms. And that's there it is. What do you got, Ray?
Well, I think I can't summarize it as well as you did. And for me, freelancing at that point in time was more so for me to as a stepping stone to something better. And knowing your why, as you said, why are you doing this? Is it something for a temporary, or is it something for a reason, a season, or a lifetime? You have to remember going into these situations as to what is the strategy here? What do you want to accomplish when you're in this scenario? Or if this is your choice, being in the gig economy is a choice, and you want to continue and striving in this environment, what is your why? Like, what is going to keep you going? Is it money? Is it the freedom? Is it because you just, I mean, you have to? Some people just have to because you got to pay rent. I mean, all these types of things you have to think about as to when you're going into this
Absolutely.
level of
And
commitment.
I think the moment that you nail down what your why is, you are already unique from tons and tons and tons of freelancers. I mean, it's not just, freelancers that should be asking their whys, it's everybody.
Yeah.
And the moment you know that purpose, you're just unstoppable. Just like how this weekend is gonna
Woo!
be, yo.
Yeah, let's
Oh
go. Play
man.
it out.
That's right. That's
Woo!
right. Thank you everybody for joining us here at the Business Temple. Stay consistent with us every single Saturday live here on YouTube, 9 a.m. PT, 12 p.m. ET with Super Alex and
Super Ray. We'll see you next Saturday here, and much love to you all. Thanks again. Peace.
Peace.